Well, hello. This is Jan from Red Toad Studio, and today we're going to paint the basket that we drew in part 1. And if you'd like to see that tutorial, it is on our website, or you can go to the description box in YouTube. And to our Easter basket instruction sheet that you can download and keep for your files. All right. I am going to watercolor mine. You may decide to color yours, or use colored pencils, or even maybe use acrylic paint. Who knows? You can do whatever you want with your basket. But I am going to walk you through if you want to watercolor it, and we're using a simple Crayola set. So almost all of you should have a set of these hanging around. We need to activate our paints, which we are going to take a spray bottle and get our paints wet, and you might as well just get them all ready to go. You may not know at this point what color you want to paint those eggs. So I'm going to spray some paint on every one of my colors today. And if you haven't done it already, you might want to swatch these out so you know what colors they make. Don't forget to have some way to drop some water over here in your mixing pan. I like to use an eyedropper, and you can probably find these at Walmart's, your drugstores, or maybe you even had some medicine that came in a dropper and you could salvage that and use it. Now, I am going to do the light color of my basket first, and there's only one brown in my Crayola set, so we will need to mix a lighter brown than this brown, because I also want to put a little brown where the shadows are. So I'm going to come over here in one of my sections. I'm going to do just a few drops of water, and I mean like 4 drops. We don't need very much. Then have your brush wet, and I forgot to mention, don't forget to have a paper towel and a little testing sheet so you can see if you've got your colors right. So I'm going to get a little brown in here. I'm going to swish it around a little bit, add it here, and look at that pretty, almost I'd say about a sienna brown, a rusty brown. Let's see how dark that is on our sheet. Now I want that just a little bit darker, so I'm going to come in here, get a little more of that brown on my brush. Look at that. Let's see what that looks like. Now we're getting there. I may do just a tad more, and we're ready to go. Now we're going to paint our whole basket with this color, and after it dries, we'll add a little bit of shadow color with our dark brown. So here we go. Oh, forgetful grandma. If you remember on our rabbit, I forgot to tape him down. Well, I just about forgot to tape my basket down, and it works so much better if you take the time to do this step. Because lots of times your paper will wrinkle when you add water to it, and I like to use just plain old blue painter's tape. You could use washi tape and masking tape, but I think this works about the best. So if you like to paint, I suggest you just go to the hardware store or Walmart or one of those stores and buy you a whole big roll of this painter's tape, because I use a lot of it. There we go. I finally remembered before I actually put water on my paper. Are we ready now? We got yours all ready? All right. Now let's paint over our whole basket. Not the eggs, not the ribbon, but this is the undercolor of our basket. Yes, that's just what I wanted. Can you see that? Trying to keep my paints here in the picture means we have to keep this picture fairly small. Because when I was first starting to learn to watercolor, and I'm still learning how to watercolor, I'll be honest with you, I've wanted to learn for years but never had the time, and I'm really just learning now along with you. But it always frustrated me a little bit that when I watched tutorials, they would go off somewhere like this with their brush and do something, and I couldn't see what they were doing. And so they'd come back and they would paint, but I would really never know what had gone on while they were off camera. So I'm trying to keep my paint palette on camera, but it kind of takes up a lot of room too. Now, I want to also go up here along the handle. Now, I'm using a number 5 size brush here. It's my Artscape. And this is a round brush because it comes to a point on the end. And so even though it's a fairly good sized brush, I can fill in very skinny parts of my picture with the very tip of that brush. It's just one of my favorite brushes. There we go. Have I gotten all the parts of my basket covered? Now, we want to let that dry before we come in with anything else on the basket. So now it's time. Now, I don't have my water bottle where you can see it, but maybe I could fit it right there. Let's see if that'll work. I like to dab off on my paper towel, swish it in my water, and then I can do this, and my brush is clean and ready to go for another color. So we probably need to do our ribbon next. I always like to do my ribbons red, but you know, this isn't for Christmas. It's probably for an Easter picture. So I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't a violet or purple one be pretty? So we want to do the same thing. We want to have a color, a light color, and then we'll go in with a darker purple for shadows. So I need to stir up a little bit of light purple or violet color. So we'll do that right here. I don't think you can see it there, can you? There, we'll do it up in this corner where you can see it. And that's a lot more than I'm going to need, but that way you can see it. Now, right here, I have a purple color. So I'm going to take some of this and mix it in with this water. And look what a pretty, oh, that's a pretty color. Now, I do think, no, I need this a little darker to show up, but, oh, I think that is so pretty. I have to say, even though these are just Crayolas, and we shouldn't say just Crayolas, you can get some really pretty colors out of these paints. Now, let's test that and see what it looks like. You know, I want that a little darker. I had way too much water here for what I need to paint, so it's going to take me a little more paint to get it as dark as I want it. So that's something for you to remember. Actually, 2 or 3 drops of water will give you quite a bit of paint. Even a little more yet. All right. Now I'm going to paint over all of my bow, and then when it's dry, we will add some shadows with our paint. Now this is going to be a very light purpley color, but you know, it's a spring pastel. I think a lot of us have had a very long winter, and it's just so nice to think of something and do something that is springy. We're all ready for the flowers and the trees and leaves and all the pretty stuff of spring. There's been so much snow and bad weather this year. Now, if you get a puddle in part of your picture, you can pick up that paint and take it over to another area that wants to be that color. See, like there's a little puddle there. We'll just bring it down here. And we have our first coat of our like a violet color. Don't you just love the violets that pop up in the spring out in your yard? All right, now those need to dry. I think this is dry. No, almost. And we'll have different colors of eggs going here in a little bit. So I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to just swipe it on that. And you could also use a piece of material. There we go. And always be sure to keep your paintbrush with its little tip. You can always use your fingers to kind of smooth that tip down. I think we need to let this dry a little bit. So I'll be back with you in a few seconds after this has dried. Okay, I'm back with you. I think my basket is dry enough to add little shadow lines. And for the shadow lines, be sure to have your brush damp, but not too wet. We're just going to take some of the brown straight from this palette here. And there'll be a line of shadows right under the rim. Like that. Now don't go over that a whole lot, because if you do, you may stir up the paint underneath that had dried. And you don't want to do that. And if you're like me, that paint hasn't probably totally dried yet. And then we're going to do a little bit of that brown on every one of these shadow areas that we did with our pen. This is something you could have waited and not put the pen shadows in and just used the dark watercolor to do that. Not everybody paints their pictures with your pen lines. Okay, and I'm going to put just a little bit of dark line on the underside of the handle here as a shadow. Now that's not a very dark line, but you know it will make a difference in your picture. You probably won't even think about it, but your brain, your eyes will know it's there. Okay, now clean your brush. Now let's dive into this purple here, but we're going straight from the pan for our darker shadows, and we're going to add some dark shadows here on each side. Don't need to get a lot wet, but just a little bit. Do that on the other side. Get a little more there. And we'll put a little bit of dark around this knot here. Let's add a little there. There we go. And see if we can get a little bit more. And come down and follow this line a little bit. You know, I'm going to get some of this water here and add to here. Just not quite enough. There we go. We want to put shadows under that middle bow. And I think we're done with that bow. If you'd like, you could put a little bit of dark here at the tip end if you wanted to. That's up to you. And there it is. Our bow is done. So let's clean our brush. And now do these eggs however you want to do the eggs. I think I'm going to do a bright yellow egg right here, and my yellow is dried up too, so I need to re-dampen my colors. Wonderful thing about watercolors, you're getting them wet, but you're not wasting any, because these can dry and then they're just perfect to use again. You can even dry these let it dry, air dry, add some water in a few days, and use this color again if you liked that color and wanted to use it in something. So I'm going to get some of this yellow. What egg? I think I'll do this egg yellow. Now in watercolors, you don't want to paint next to something that's wet. So this will slow down how we do our eggs probably, because all of these eggs touch this egg. So I need to let that dry before I add anything, although I could add up at the top of one of these eggs. We could also do this egg over here. Let's do that egg over there. Clean my brush between every color. What should this egg? It's tiny, but it's there. Let's do a dark blue egg there. Not very much on your brush, just a little bit. Oh yes, that blue looks neat with that purple. Okay, what do we want to do next? We want to let that dry. Now, watercolor takes a lot of patience because you do have to let things dry. So I'm going to let that dry and be right back with you. All right, I'm back. I'm not sure that this is real dry, but we're going to be careful. Now, you at home, when you're doing this, maybe give this maybe 5-10 minutes. Now, I've only given it a couple. Now, what color should I make this egg back here? We're going to have it. Shall we do a red egg? And it's Easter, but you know what? Let's do a reddish egg. Let's see how that'll come out. Right here. Oh, it'll look kind of like an orange egg. That's fine. That will look good there. Do you still color your eggs with egg dye and hide them outside? When I was little, we used real chicken eggs. We would boil them, and then we would put them in egg dye, and then we'd hide them outside and hunt for them, and then we would, when we found them, we would crack them open and eat them. We ate the boiled eggs. We didn't have fake eggs that we put chocolate candy inside of when I was little. We ate the boiled egg. Now, I know why things have changed, because no one wants a spoiled egg to be found and eaten. But it was really fun to use the real eggs. Okay. I think that pretty blue we had here is going to be the top and bottom of this egg here. See if we can get that in there. I think maybe I went in the opposite blue, but you know what? This is just fine. It's a little bit lighter. It's a pretty blue though. Now a little bit of that right here on the bottom of it. I think you kids nowadays, you probably lose a lot of fun in not being able to decorate your eggs. Because when we use those old plastic eggs, they're really not very pretty, are they? All right. Now I better not do the middle of that till that blue dries a little bit. So this one's going to be a spotted egg. Let's do a bright green egg. Don't have too much paint on there because you probably just want to go ahead and paint around those spots. There, I like that. Now we need to let that egg dry before we can paint the dots there. And now we're going to have a striped egg back here. I think one of the stripes will be this green. And that stripe will be green. Now we have to let things dry again. We have a spot here too that we want to be like some grass that you put underneath. So I'm going to take some of this darker green right here, and we're going to sprout some grass out there, just like that. There we go. You know, we could put a little bit of grass sprouting up between the eggs back here. Just flip your brush kind of up. There we go. Now all we need to do is this here and these dots, and then we'll put a little shadow and a little bit of grass out here, and we will be done with our little Easter basket. Okay, I think I'm going to put purple here. I'll use that purple we used for the bow. Be a lime green and purple egg. And you can decorate these eggs however you want to in your drawing, or don't decorate any of them, just make them all solid colors, and that would be cute too. It would be easier to paint if they were all just solid colors. And I think we'll put a yellow in the middle of this egg. Let's see, we don't want too much on there because we got such a tiny dinky spot to do. And then I'm going to take the dark blue for these spots here and just barely spot it on there. Alrighty. Now, let's just add a little bit of green underneath, because this is probably sitting out in the grass. I'm trying to activate my dark green here, which didn't stay that way. Let's take some of this spring green, and to either side of this basket, let's put a few wisps of grass sitting there. And we just whisk up. And then we can come under the basket and just do something like that. Clean your brush and add just a little bit of dark green. Maybe this one will work. This one's nice and juicy. Now, it looked really dark at first, but we can keep doing that and putting it on our thing. And then come into this and kind of whisk your brush up for some grass wisps. And that's also the shadow of the basket there in the grass. And we are done. Now I will show you, if you want to add a little sky color, you will need to mix this blue because it's an intense blue. And we would need our lightest blue, which I think is this one. So let's do that just in case you want to do that. Now, I like the way mine looks now. And don't feel like I need that, but let's do it in case you want to. So I'm going to come right here, just a couple drops of water, and we're going to take some of this blue, and that's probably enough right there. We just want to hint at a sky. So get some of that water on there and just dab some sky in there. Now you don't want to just paint a solid blue, because if you dab like this, it looks like you have clouds in the sky. Be careful when you come up against your basket and your bows, though. Be sure they're dry before you do that. And there we go. You can do as much sky as you want, and that gives you a good idea of how to do it. Now, before you leave that painting, take one of your colors and sign it. Or you just use your initials. You can do that with the tip of your brush. You might even want to date it. Now, let that dry. Clean off your brush. Fix the tip before you put your brush up. You can leave this open to dry and use these waters another day, or you can clean these up. When it's dry, take your tape up and pull from the outside. Pull it to the outside. Otherwise, it might tear your paper a little bit, and you don't want that. And there we are. We are done with our basket. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you take this little basket and draw a bunny and put this basket in the picture with the bunny. And you know, these would make wonderful Easter cards if you want to make a card for somebody, wouldn't it? Well, I'm going to say bye for now, and I will see you in our next video. So bye-bye.